Welcome to Catapult's Digital Workplace Strategy Summit. Thanks for joining me for this session, entitled Why Context Matters. My name is Jeff Dalton. I am the National Productivity Practice Manager. I have been at Catapult for 13 years, work out of Denver, and I get to work with a bunch of talented architects and technologists to deliver solutions based on M365. The topics we'll cover today are 1, a brave new world, 2, the elephant in the room, 3, the results are in, and 4, working contextually. So to start off, let's talk about this notion of contextuality and what does it mean for our work. Right now, most organizations don't bring the applications, the automations, the systems around a given idea or a topic, a single contextual focus. So that means that we're unfocused, and it's critical that we know your focus, sustain your focus, and protect your focus by enabling all the different components of the environment to have that single focus so that you're not changing your focus over and over again throughout your day. Catapult is releasing our new digital workplace maturity model. You've seen this in some of the other sessions, and I wanted to focus this session on the digital employee experience and how that really is the peak of the mountain, and all the other things enable us to create these digital employee experiences. Without the tool sets of collaboration, communication, apps and automation, and then all the foundational work of security, compliance, governance, and change management, these experiences would not be possible. Let's take a look at the levels of the digital workplace maturity model inside the employee experience. And I'm not going to drain this, but just notice the big difference between the base, which is siloed communication and collaboration, and line of business applications are all pretty much separate, all the way up to the Excel level where processes are optimized and KPIs and metrics are being used to drive continual improvement. And change across the organization is just built in. Let's take a look at where we are today. Yep, sure enough, we had a pandemic. Whether you liked it or not, it happened. These 7 things came out of this work trend study that Microsoft did. And I'm just going to go over a few of them and highlight them. Flexibility that we have come to experience is going to stay. We're not going back. For some reason, the mix-up has caused leaders to think that things are working better than they are, and they need to wake up. There is an exhausted workforce out there, and nothing's going to hide it. Many people, specifically the Gen Z group, is barely hanging on. Our networks, the people that we relied on to be innovative, are shrinking because we have gotten much more authentic with the people that we're close to and let go of those other relationships. And the talent pool is now everywhere. Because we're in a hybrid world, that talent pool is moving to wherever they want to be to live their lives the best they possibly can. Let's look at some of the other things that are affecting us. There's a massive digital overload happening right now. That wave, that tidal wave of information is now showing up in this past year of this study. 148% increase in the number of meetings that we're having, most of them online. That alone is stressful. Online meetings and being online all the time overworks our minds. Email has increased, 40 billion emails, it's 45% more chat, 66% more people working inside of Office documents. So it's a huge impact along with all the other emotional things that we're feeling. And we can see this coming out in a new definition of the digital workplace. Certainly, business outcomes are important, but now no longer can we suffice by saying, I would like to be more productive. Senior management says we got to communicate better. We've got to take care of our employees better. These things need to be much more measurable and specific. But along with that, you'll see some of the other things like I want my workplace to amplify and augment my ability to work. I want it to increase my ability to use devices and collaborate across everything. I want it or need it to provide insights and links to the organization's mission because I need to know that what I do matters. And it needs to connect me with people to support my growth and development and enhance my well-being. These are tall orders, and it's much more, it's deeper now. I think when we saw friends and family get sick and some even died, we really started to look a lot deeper, and organizations now need to take that to heart and utilize a much more intentional human-centered design. This graph speaks to how human-centered design, getting intentional about what we do, how we do it, the tools we use, what the mission is, where are we going, and how are we going to get there with the technology that meets all those different objectives. You'll notice the examples at the bottom with a digital workplace speak a lot to the things on the previous slide: my well-being, growth of opportunity, sense of belonging. This is a very different IT than what we used to be in. The cool part is it pays off. Organizations that are doing this work are finding that they have more empowered workforce. They are inspired, the workforce is inspired, and that is driving productivity, true measurable productivity. The outcome of that is 1.6 times more likely to achieve what the customer expects, because the customer is more demanding as well. We've seen that in restaurants and on and on and on. You've all kind of been mixed up or jostled, if you will. The great part is that these organizations are 25% more profitable than the folks that are not doing it. And they're 2 times more likely to have a very high net promoter score, which essentially asks the question, will you promote my business to your friends or colleagues? So the elephant in the room is really one key indicator of how much distraction or the lack of intentional contextuality is inside the organization. And it's something you all know. It's all something you all love. And it's, well, if you haven't read this book, I highly suggest it. It mentions a number of topics. It goes through what email was intended and what it's become, and how it's really tying us down, and how it's like a poison to clear thinking, because we switch back and forth through emails, back and forth all day, and it's taking up, studies show, and I'm going to share some of those with you, up to 30% of our day is spent in email. And I'm also going to share with you some studies and some physical work, real work that we've done with clients to show you what impact that we saw that it is happening, that is causing. So a few studies, and these are various studies from various people. You can see their logos up there. Studies have shown that the average person spends 28% of their work reading and responding to emails. That's a third, as I mentioned before. Less than half of those emails even deserve our attention, but we don't know which ones we're supposed to read and not read. We're CC'd on a bunch of emails, and so we've got to catch up with the story. An average of 64 seconds it takes to recover from an email interruption, which means another email comes in, you look to the top of your email list, you go, oh, I need to read that, and you try to get back to what you were doing. 64 seconds to get back in the train of thought that you started before you were interrupted. It has been proven that limiting email dramatically reduces stress. So that means email stressful, period. As it says in the upper right-hand corner, email has become the bane of the 21st century's workers' existence. Back to some of our results, Forbes found that most employees toggle between 10 different apps in any given hour. And that is costing about 32 days per worker per year in productivity. Now, that doesn't speak to email per se, but email is certainly one of those apps that we go back and forth between because we are sure that something's happening in email that we need to be on top of. The other interesting fact is that 40% of knowledge workers' time is spent not working on the things that are important, but thinking about and working on how work gets done. No one's telling us how to do our work. We're figuring it out because we're not contextually designing our solutions. One final survey that was done by Microsoft and Forrester kind of boiled some of this stuff down, and they said that organizations that went from on-prem to leveraging even base functionality in M365 saved 20 minutes per day for information workers and 28 for frontline workers. They also found that 15% improvement in time to decisions. So decisions were made faster and much time was being saved. If you have not read this, it's worth a read. It's kind of meaty, but it's worth a read. So based on all that, what's the answer? Well, the answer is something that will allow you to be flexible, build solutions, and keep those solutions and that information, like I mentioned in that very first slide with the files and the applications, all pointing to the same context or the same subject. One of the things that we have found that is very effective is Teams. Teams, you'll notice in the orange on the far left, is I can bring in applications that add functionality to my contextual work. You'll see that in the green box are all the different things that I can be contextual about, but I get to control what my focus is at any given time and stay focused, because on the top, you can see that red bar allows me to add things that are contextual to that conversation. This is a sales support channel where my team and I work, and we bring in estimating assumptions and we bring in videos that we need to help the team stay aligned in how we do things and how we estimate. Everything that we talk about in that channel is about how we do the work of sales. So whether I'm talking about that or I switch my context to a client where everything is about that client's needs and their opportunities, I have context. It keeps me focused. I get more deep thinking done. My company benefits, Catapult benefits, the customer benefits, and I benefit because I'm not stressed. Let's look at some of the things that Catapult has done to validate this with our customers. One of the things that the team does is put metrics out there that ingest all the information from Graph and keep it up over time. And we did that with one of our customers. They're a large food service organization with 24,000 users just as information workers, 60,000 users total. And they have some big numbers. They're a big organization. The thing that is the most important here is that they rely on email as identified in their read to received ratio, meaning that 87% of the emails that come in get read. So based on our information before, that means that the average user spends 75 minutes a day reading, 14.2 a day sending, and 44% of those emails are having replies. So that means 44% of the emails that are coming in, I am now replying to. So I'm sorry, I mentioned minutes. They read 75 emails, they send 14.2 emails, and 44% of those are replied. So what that means is they're very reliant on email. A lot of work gets done inside of email. At the end of the day, what this means and comes down to is, remember we mentioned that it takes 64 seconds to read an email? So they're doing 75. So that means 80 minutes per day is, for an average user at this company, is spent reading email. 71% of that, because it takes 5 minutes to send one, is spent sending emails. That's 151 minutes of every user's day, or 32% of their average workday is spent inside of email. Now, you recall from the McKinsey studies on the previous slide, they found that 28% of those surveyed, 28% of their day was spent in email. So we spend a lot of time in email, and it affects our contextual working. It stresses us out, and yet we're addicted to it. We don't have other solutions. And most organizations have not contextually shifted away from email. So what can we do? Now, we can limit email. We could remove it. Everybody, when you think about not even just having a no email Friday, freaks people out. We don't have a lot of choices that we trust. We can create policies that say specific designs for email, when we use them and when we don't use them. That's very helpful. Zero inbox policy can be helpful or not helpful depending on how the organization implements it. Set times to read email so that email is not just this thing that is constantly happening. I have folks in our organization that say, I respond to email 3 times a day given in these particular hours. And it sets expectations so people know when I can expect a response. I've had people call me on my phone and say, hey, did you read my email? I wanted to strangle them. I'll get to it when I can. But these expectations are really helpful. The other thing that email is, it is a treasure trove of solutions that can be contextualized. So think of when email comes in, why that email is coming in, what is it supposed to do, and then move it to a platform like Teams. Build a solution around it. Build a Power BI dashboard. Put it in a planner. There's tons of things, and then make it contextual around the thing that it is talking about. That way you will stay focused on that client, that process, that thing that you're working in. Let's talk a little bit more about what this notion is of working contextually. So Catapult has learned through a lot of experience that this kind of layered wedding cake, if you will, is the best way to approach the digital workplace. At the base, you have this foundational work, and you'll notice that many of these things show up on our maturity model, because it's important that the foundation has a maturity, that the basic services, the toolboxes up there, collaboration, communication, and automation, have a maturity, and that Teams, as that user interface, has a maturity so that we can build digital employee experiences that delight our users. Some recommendations that we have learned through our experience, both with this model and working with customers, is create a plan to empower people for extreme flexibility. So build that in. As we saw from some of the previous slides, users are expecting a hybrid workforce. Build it into everything that you do. Invest in the space and technology to bridge physical and digital worlds. That more to that hybrid. How do you do that? Work with some of our experts. You've got a QR code in the bottom that you can ask for help. We can help you with that. Combat digital exhaustion, that overload that we spoke to, from the top of the organization. Give people time to think. And you can do that by increasing their contextuality, building solutions, and then saying, now that you are more productive or you have a little more time, be a little more intentional about the meetings you have and the work that you do and the documents that you write. rebuild social capital and culture is critical. So do that as a component of this extra productivity. Don't just use that time to work more. And always think about the user experience. How does what we're deploying affect the user in how they work on a day-to-day basis? Get them involved, ask them questions. So let's talk about the maturity model, and I'm not going to drain this slide. And once again, I'm going to focus on the bottom and the top, and you can see that how that grows over the maturity levels. Excuse me, but as the base, little thought is put towards the employee experience at all. All the tools are out there to fix an isolated problem. They're a knee-jerk response, typically by IT, and that's how they live. It's very reactive kind of environment. And nobody's thinking about what is the effect of all these tools on the end user. At the opposite extreme, we have an employee experiences where metrics and KPIs are built into the solutions. Once again, holistic solutions are being used with that built in. And because of that, the enhancements that are made to those existing systems happen effortlessly, and we know the impact that they're going to have on the employee experience in the business itself. You can't do this overnight. It will take a slow progress. Build. The first thing that is critical is assess and build basic digital behaviors or basics universal skills, like at mentioning, not attaching. We all know what these are. There's a great tool called Nulia, which will assess the organization's current digital behaviors and help them to mature with just base digital behaviors. As everybody increases those skills, it's much easier to move to that next walk layer, which is where teams start understanding the power of those integrated solutions and start building team solutions and cross-departmental solutions that save them time because they have a base foundation of the tools that work. Then finally, you can really start to build intentional contextual work, leveraging email as a source of those solutions, build those things out, leveraging the digital skills that everybody has, and you will find that the context switching goes down, you've got a decrease in the amount of time that it takes to make a decision, and you can just continue to evolve and improve those as you're evolving and maturing your environment. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate you guys joining. Please utilize the QR code to the right to talk about and give me suggestions about what you liked and didn't like about this presentation. And then if you'd like to get some help from the experts on my team and at Catapult, please grab the QR code on the left. We'll be glad to help you in any way that we can. And we are trainers at heart. We're knowledge transfer folks at heart. We crawl, walk, and run alongside you. We have lots of ways to help you along your digital workplace maturity. There are some other sessions that will be very helpful. The collaboration session in a hybrid world, the automation, which is done by Reza, who's an MVP. You'll really enjoy the topics that he has. And then once again, change management, all this stuff is disruptive. So the work that we're doing is going to disrupt users, but hopefully with good adoption and change management, we make it transformative as opposed to destructive. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks.